Okay, so in this video I want to show you guys how to create the weights that you'll use for the effective exchange rate index. So this is, I've already started here with Iceland, Tunisia, and Paraguay. Remember, those were the three countries that I arbitrarily chose. And these are this is the trade data, right? And this comes from, so imports in the year 2003. This is what the US imported from Iceland. This is total exports to Iceland in 2003. Where does this come from? This doesn't come from Fred. This comes from the census data, which is this right here, right? So if we look at Iceland 2003 Iceland, and go over to imports, this is monthly data, January, February, March, and the I in front of it stands for imports. So go over to imports per year, 281, right? 273, 268, 227. That's where this comes from, 281, 273, 268, 227. So I just copied this, right? Right-click, copy, and then right-click, paste here, right into here. I did the same thing for exports. So now, how do we use this data, this international trade data, to get our weights? That's what we're going to do. We get our weights from total trade, not just imports and not just exports, but instead imports plus exports, that's total trade. So what we could do, a very primitive way of doing this, is to pull up our calculator and to say what? Imports is 281, exports is 242. So imports 281 plus 242. Plus the decimals, whatever, 523. I go over here. Oh, what's the total? 523. Okay, what's the next one? Pull up the calculator, blah, blah, blah. That's really inefficient. The better way to do this, faster way, more efficient way to do this, is to simply, let Excel has a calculator built in for you. Let it do that. How do you do that? Equals. So we're going to use a formula, right? Because we're taking a summation, we're going to do equals sum. That's the Excel command or code to sum a list of variables. Which variables are we going to add? Parentheses. These two. That row right there. And close the parentheses and hit enter. And then you get the 523. This is the 523 that we had before, right? It's gone now, but okay, so we do the same thing over here. Equals sum. Highlight these two columns, close off the parentheses, enter. There you go, 582, and then do the same thing. But yet actually there's a faster way to do even that. Another shortcut. What's the shortcut? Let Excel recognize the pattern. So highlight this. And then, remember, thick white cross to thinner black cross. You can drag it, or again, even faster, double click. And there you go. It lists it for you. See here the sum, C4, D4. This cell right here is the sum of C5 and D5. Next one, C6, D6, right? Yep. C6, D6, and so on. Again, so Excel recognizes, oh, hey, what do you want in this column E? Based on your pattern here, based on what the formula you entered here, I can infer, Excel can infer what you want to do for the rest of the column. Okay, so these are just blackened out cells to partition the different countries. Okay, so you can do the same thing here. Right? And then you can drag it all the way down. And there you go. These you can blacken out again. And now, see? Sum, C15, D15. It's quick. So that's the total trade. Now we want to take the average of this group. Okay, you want to take the average trade. In your data, you're going to go from from 1985 all the way down to 2014. For me, I just arbitrarily chose 2003. So we'll take the total, we just call it average. in the file I uploaded to Excel, to Blackboard. I think I called it something else. We can freeze the pane so that we know what we're dealing with. The columns, I mean. See, I scroll and now it loses that top row. I can go to View, freeze the top row. So now I can see, when I scroll, I can see what this, even though I'm on line 142, I can see this cell corresponds to average. Okay, so let's take the average of this grouping. Again, I could do it by pencil and paper. That's really slow. Slightly faster, I could do it with the calculator here. Again, very slow relative to Excel. Let's do it in Excel. This cell, I'm going to average out the total of this. So equals what? Average. There's a couple different average. Put in your parentheses. Highlight the list that you want to take the average of. Okay, notice the colon there. From colon says from E2 up to and including E13. So close that off and then enter. Okay, so this takes your average. It took the average for you really quick. Now you can do the same thing here. Average. Close it off with the parenthesis and there you go. Or again, you could have done this. And it's changing the cell as you go. But this is meaningless for our purposes. Oop. Well, content of the cell. Just to be consistent here. And then again, average. I can enter it manually, E28 to E39. Close off. And there it is. See, so this is the average total trade with Iceland. International trade between Iceland and the US. So, on average, between, again, the interpretation of this doesn't really matter for your write-up or for the creating the weights. I'm just trying to give you some sense that this does have some meaning. The average international trade, the average trade per year from 2003 to 2014 was 668. I think this is in millions of dollars. So now what we want to do is take the total of these three. This is total international trade between the U.S. and these three countries, Iceland, Paraguay, and Tunisia. I'm going to take the total weight, the total of the average sum. And it was what? This guy. But I'm not going to have a colon here. I mean, I could because these cells are empty, but I'm going to do a comma. This guy, comma, and then this guy right here, comma. So now it's just summing not F14 through F27. That would be a colon. I'm summing instead F14 and F27. That's what the comma tells Excel to do. And then close it off with the parenthesis and enter. So this is total trade between, total trade across, average total trade across these three countries. Now, how do we get the weights from this? We're going to take the proportion of where does Iceland's weight come from? Trade weighted effective exchange rate. Where's the weight come from? It's the proportion of Iceland's average of this total average. Okay, so how do I do that? Equals this guy divided by this guy right here, the total. Right, and it's 0.21. Again, if we multiply that by 100 to get a percentage, that would be 21.58% of total trade from 2003 to 2014 across these three countries. 21% of it was to Iceland. So we'll do the same thing here. For Tunisia, here's Tunisia's total, average, divided by this grand total here. And you see Tunisia's 30. And we already know, because there's only three countries, Paraguay has to be the remaining 49% or so. I mean, I don't know what the decimals, but here's Paraguay's total as a proportion. That's divide mean. I mean, that's what divide means. Divided by the grand total, and you get this 48. Again, with the decimals, it should have been 49. So these should sum to 1. Just to double check, we can sum. The total weight should sum to 1, right? See? And again, as a percentage, this would be like 100%. So these are the weights you're going to use to create your index. Effective exchange rate index. Iceland's currency exchange rate in the index will get weighted by 0.2158. Tunisia's will be weighted by 0.30, and Paraguay's by 0.4827, blah, blah, blah.